We are going to get going on the IT Leaders panel. Hope everybody has had a good day. Just a reminder, bar open, help yourself anytime during this. And for those who have been with us or new, right, the idea of this is a good way to put a wrap on the day, right? We're going to talk about some of the topics that have been in some of the breakout sessions. Certainly going to talk about the topic that was on our keynote this morning, and really give you, all of you, a perspective from some of your peers, right, that are sitting where you're sitting, and maybe how they're dealing with some of these items. So first off, let me introduce the members of our panel here today. Josh Diemert, Assistant IT Leader for Scheels. Thank you for being with us. Everyone's met Loren Horsagar, CEO and founder of ModelMind. He did our keynote this morning, also did the presentation here throughout the day, so thanks for bookending this for us. Appreciate you being up here. Jeremy Hostrup, Senior Network Engineer with Alerus Financial. And last but not least, Shane Underdahl, Director of Information Technology with Bethany Retirement Living. So with this, again, you could see by the diversity in the businesses for those that are familiar, right? We have retail, Loren, of course, on our main subject of AI. We've got financial industry. We've got healthcare space. So really give you a perspective, pretty broad perspective with some of this. So gentlemen, thanks again for joining us up here. First topic, AI. Back on that, right? We've heard about it day in, day out in our daily lives, but it's an important part right now. This tends to be front and center as far as topics goes, and this is leading the stage with this. We heard Loren talk on that this morning. We know that it's all around us. Question is it all around your organizations, right? Jeremy, I'll start off with you on this one. So what areas of your organization are you looking to leverage AI, and any projects that might be associated with that?
Hopefully this is on. Yeah, so in the financial industries, we look at how AI can solve problems, right? I think that's what everybody's looking at. So I think at Alerus, we're at our infancy of, just understanding what the capabilities are. So right now we use it for, do you need a report written or something, just a document that needs to be created that you want to spend 8 hours typing. Sure. So you can use AI really quickly, generate that, proofread it, and then you have, that thing. We are slow playing the user adoption of AI until we fully understand, like Loren was saying, how do you get from A to C if you don't know what B is? So being able to understand it, data security, obviously a big concern. So, we're at that stage right now where we're trying to train our employees, give them guidelines around AI, while we as IT work to figure out what's best for the company.
It's a good part of it that you have to think of, right, on the employee side, because from the employee side, they're introduced to this in their personal lives. So, hey, why not make my work life easier, and maybe I can leverage it, but the organization may not have the policies built around that yet. So being cognizant of that, I think, is pretty important. Josh, at Scheels, anything different with that, or where are you guys at with this?
So I think Scheels is probably the same infancy. We're learning, understanding where the opportunities are. What we're really looking for is, can it help our customer experience? So can we get information to our associates quicker and more accurately? So if you've been to one of our stores, we have experts in the stores that know the product, they sell it to you. E-com is a little different because we have all of our product on e-com. They ask questions to our customer service reps. Sure. They're not necessarily that expert, so we're trying to see, can we leverage AI to give them answers that still builds on our customer experience?
Yeah, and it's interesting to think of it from those two sides, right? The hands-on. I'm guessing everyone in here has been to Scheels and know what that experience is like, and then the people that you have trained and how they treat you when you're a customer in there. But to think, how do I get the information to their hands? But then you also have to deal with the side of the e-commerce space, so it may come into play a couple of different ways. So probably some other challenges with that too, but we'll get to that in just a second. Shane, healthcare wise, right? Concerning because of governance that you have have with that? Guessing that's probably slow played also, right? So flip this on the side a little bit for you. What are the main concerns with that? What's scaring you about AI?
Well, I'm of the age I grew up Terminator and War Games. So, yeah, and to be honest, and both Josh and Jeremy said basically exactly where we're at is we're not there. And we did learn a lot today from Loren. And I think, we have a lot of PHI, we have HIPAA, a lot of concerns there with that. And I think taking away from this and other conferences I've been at is really need to look at and maybe get a team together and look at, what do we want? What do we want to use it for? Okay, and how can we be secure? How can it help our staff? But we also need to, I look at everything now. Years ago, cybersecurity, it's just grown, right? So this last year, I look at AI as that. I think it's just going to increase exponentially. So yes, I have concerns. But I think if we, and Loren had alluded to this earlier, is sure, there could be bad, but I think there's plenty of good. And I think we just need to get the right team together, research this, and find out what areas we want to use it.
Yeah, interesting time from the cybersecurity, right? Everybody's, and that's I guess some foreshadowing for our next topic in a few minutes. But with all of the concerns that we have on the security side, we certainly don't want to introduce any other reasons for us to stay up at night with AI if we can prevent it, right? But as Loren had said, and you just alluded to, you're right, the good can outweigh the bad if you get out in front of that, and to make sure that you do that. I kind of look at the AI space, and maybe I'm thinking of this incorrectly, but it's not much different than what, if those who have been in IT a while can think of what the cloud was 10 years ago. Ooh, everybody's going to go to the cloud, right? You need to go there. There's huge benefits. There's cost savings with it. And then you looked at it and said, well, there really isn't cost savings, so I'm going to pull back a little bit. And by the way, I really don't know what the cloud is yet. And I don't know how I'm going to get into it, but everybody's telling me I'm going to get into it. And I kind of look at AI in the same aspect right now. Now, Loren doesn't, because he's been doing it for decades, right? But for us, this is fairly new for us. We hear that it's coming at us, but we're trying to tiptoe into this, going, yeah, I can see we're going to get into it, but I don't want to get into it before I should, and I want to make sure I'm prepared when I do get there. But that's kind of what I equate that to. Jeremy, next. Go ahead, Loren.
Can I just add to that? So yeah. I think nobody's behind today, right? So everybody's talking about we're dabbling in this, which is great, but we're not behind. But if I come back a year from now and you haven't done it, like, you're going to be behind. The acceleration of this is way faster than anything we've ever dealt with. So you're not behind, but you need to start educating yourself.
But you better get moving.
You better get moving, exactly. So.
Fair warning. All right. Jeremy, back to you. Shayna just brought up the team side of AI, right? And who we look at formulating those strategies with, right? In your organization, are you thinking about that? Who are you thinking? Because this isn't just an IT thing, right? This can be a benefit across multiple departments in organizations. So who are you thinking pulling that in? And then second part of that question, is anybody coming to you in your organization saying, hey, I want to look at doing this?
Yeah, so we were just at a leadership summit down in Minneapolis not long ago, and our chief investment officer came up to me and we had a long conversation about AI. And, he spends 8 hours preparing this report, PowerPoint and everything for that conference. And he was like, well, with AI, it's got access to all this publicly available information. It would probably take me 10, 15, 20 minutes. That's a lot of time in my day. So I do have people approaching me. My hesitation, and I don't think it's unfounded, it's making sure that the data, the questions, the output, it's the validation of all the components that makes up AI, ensuring that is accurate so that when the decision makers action the data or the output of AI, that it's known good. And that's where I think us as an IT department needs to get is having that understanding, knowing the whole process, the inputs, the outputs, the validations, so that when they come ask us for those things in the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, we have the answer. So the team we're putting together is, going to be CIO, myself, counterparts in business solutions, security, and a bunch of smart people in the room, and really understanding the whole process throughout so that we know it, we can validate it, we can talk to it, and it gives everybody confidence based on that, I think.
Yep. Josh, how about on your side as far as requests for information coming from other folks in your organization or other departments, or is this largely IT driven so far?
Right now, IT's driving a lot of it. We kind of try and get out ahead of it so we understand when the questions do come. It's everywhere, so everybody sees it in the public. So they're asking the questions. So we try really hard to get ahead with the tools that are available so we know, is this worth using, or if it's not worth using, we can explain that to them why.
Yeah. Last couple on AI. So we've heard, okay, there's good, there's bad, right? Not necessarily an IT related question, but is there any privacy in the AI world? Shane?
I'm looking at Loren on that one.
Loren gets to answer in just a second.
I'm sure. Like I stated earlier, that's my concern.
Yeah.
I would imagine, there is. I mean, with, obviously we use Network Center for a lot for our networks and Arctic Wolf and different options. But everything we do now is security driven, at least for me. And so, like Josh and Jeremy were saying, if we're going to bring this in, we are going to do this at a pace that we're comfortable with. Is there a security risk? Of course there is. There is in everything. Can it be safe? Absolutely. I don't know at this point how concerned or not concerned I should be. But I do know that I need to start paying attention to it and be prepared.
Sure. Jeremy?
Yeah, it's a concern, no doubt about it. And I mean, I get it. You can create pools and put up walls and do all of these things. But until a guy fully understands, that it's hard to say with confidence that, nope, I have no privacy concerns.
Right. Josh, know that obviously Scheels is a conservative organization. I think that's one of the things that many folks like about it, right? But it's a very strong organization also in what it believes and how it goes about its business. So I got to imagine that this is front and center all the way to the top as a concern there too, right? So question back to you. Do you feel there's any privacy in the AI world, or doesn't it come into play as much?
At Scheels, yeah. So we've talked about it. I think the one, as an organization, our image is everything. So we always are conscious of that. And the new one that did come up here this year was the AI-generated voice, right? So somebody imitating somebody else's voice and making that call for that. So that is something we've brought up to our leadership team, so they're aware of it. My personal opinion, there's no such thing as privacy anymore if you want to participate in society at all. As a IT group, we see a lot of the tools and technologies that are out there, so we maybe see a little bit in front. And just some of the tools that they're offering retailers anymore, it's all AI driven. I mean, cameras that recognize people when they walk in. And I mean, I don't believe there's any privacy anymore.
Loren, I'm going to let you put a wrap on this part of the session, and we're going to continue on the privacy side, right? This morning, part of your presentation, you were talking about data security, data leakage, but you also talked about a private AI model, right? So is a private, and this is clarification for me, and I'm guessing others in the room as well, but is a private AI model essentially private? And when I'm in that model, should I be less concerned?
Well, so this is a complicated question. So someone asked me today, can I run a model on my own servers? And yes, you can, but you probably can't afford to do that. And just like going to the cloud, does that make you more secure, less secure? Like, would you rather have someone that really understands the security of managing it, or do you want your one-person IT team managing this security for this potentially, right? So it's kind of, I think this is very similar to all the other technologies we implement from an IT management standpoint. So I don't think that's much different there. So we just have to think about that. Now, so you can run a model. I don't think that's the best way. You're not going to get the best models by doing that locally. So you're going to take advantage of these models that are in the cloud. And so that becomes more a complicated question. And it's really, what model are you running? Who owns that? What is the agreement? What are they doing with data? Do you trust them to actually do what they say they are doing? So there's a whole series of things. But just like you would implement any other product, like if you're choosing a cloud vendor, you're going to go through the same analysis.
Sure.
So, and it is the cloud vendors that are doing this for the most part. So it's kind of the same process.
Yeah. So what you heard today from these three gentlemen, is it pretty similar to what you're hearing from other customers as far as concerns or how they're proceeding forward? Or
Oh yeah, I think everybody's tentative. Some people have some big ideas that they really see a certain need and they're moving forward with that because they have a real there's a massive value to the identified problem, and they can do that relatively risk-free. There's things people think they can do and want to do in the future that they're not ready to approach, and that's really our recommendation. Like, we need to be in a learning mode right now, and we need to be looking for what is the first step to kind of step beyond the chat experience into a more complicated experience of like where we can apply this to a business process and then go from there. And it's going to keep building from there, but we have to kind of get on the treadmill that's going to take us there, but we have to do it incrementally. I agree 100% with that. Like, don't bite off and like, we're going to commit to that. I one day had a guy come to me and said, I want to fire my whole team and just replace them with AI. I'm like, well, I can't help you with that because that's going to be a disaster. So
right. Good. Let's switch subjects here. Obviously, also very important on everyone's mind is security, right? I don't think that there's anyone in this room here today that isn't concerned on the security side. And I look at that from an incident standpoint with two sides of the fence. How do I prevent it? But if it happens, how do I respond to it, right? And they're very different, and we have to make sure that we are equally prepared for those two instances, right? Make sure we have the tools in place to prevent this the very best that we can, but there's always a chance, right? And there's probably a better chance than what some think that we are going to have to respond, even if it's a minor incident, and knowing what do we do in those instances. Because if you're waiting until the incident occurs to figure out how you're going to deal with it, it's going to end up costing your organization more money, more reputation harm, whatever that may be. So along those lines, Shane, you want to kick us off with this question? Do you guys have a security incident response plan from the IT side?
Yeah, we do. And being healthcare, we've got numerous incident response types, many different scenarios that can happen. But on the security side, absolutely. I think it was Mike's great presentation he did just a bit ago, where what do you do when you think something's happening, or you know something's going on in your network? It's not normal. What do you do? Do you go grab your CEO, tell your CEO, your leaders, or do you grab your team? What's our response? Yes, I'm going to tell my CEO because it's my boss.
Right.
But I'm contacting Network Center because we would use Blue Team Alpha, and I would want a response team immediately. I would want that response team in there and taking care of this. We also use Arctic Wolf sensors in our network, so we are monitoring our network, numerous scans that we're doing real time, getting a lot of reporting. But immediately, if I knew something was going on, that's the first steps that we would do. Is obviously there's people inside the building or others in the leadership team that need to be notified, but that can happen maybe 15, 30 minutes later. I want to I'd contact Network Center and maybe it'd be Blue Team, but get the response team in there right away to at least get it under control, see what's going on, and take care of the situation. Yep.
Sure. Jeremy, obviously financial industry, right? Highly regulated. You're bound to do some things by the feds. But talk to us about, in your environment, what that incident response plan might look like, or where you guys are at, or how serious you're treating this after the fact, if something ever did occur.
Yeah, so based on the severity of what happens, there's different responses. So say there's 5 or 6 different severities, each one equates to a different response. Different notifications, there's yearly training for employees, so all employees are at least vaguely aware that the program exists, there are different responses, know where to get further information. So it hinges a lot around notifications and then the response based on the severity of the situation. So it could be as simple as disconnect the computer from the network, let the director of IT security know, and that's as far as the escalation goes. Whereas they could affect a whole company, the whole branch, and then the notifications go up to the board of directors, we get cyber insurance involved, and a whole lot of sequence of events happens after that. So it really depends on the severity of it, but the basis is, employees generally know or at least have a vague understanding that the program exists.
How about in your IT team? You had talked employees go through, some basic training every year. How often is this and your specific process coming up for your IT team?
Yeah, so we do walkthroughs, at a minimum a walkthrough a year, usually with a third party to go through, test the incident response plan, test the notifications, walk through all the sequence of events, how the notifications are going to occur. So at least once a year we walk through that entire process from a business and an IT perspective. In financial industries, it depends on the business a lot for the notifications and things like that, so it's a joint effort. There's not a lot from that perspective we do just as an IT department.
Okay. Loren tasked that question to you also, right? From your business side, which you run on your own, still a concern, right? As far as number of employees, I know you aren't real big, but what you're operating in and the amount of customer information, right, has to be a concern for you. So this isn't a problem just for large organizations, right? Talk to us about that.
Excuse me, I agree. And the last 6 or 7 years, I've had the privilege to work with U.S. Bank as a customer. So this actually helped us get our policies in place for these things because we were forced to, which was really useful. And as a small tech company, I don't know too many people that actually operate at the level we do. And I have development experience working with mostly Fortune 500 companies over the years. So we've also done audits of our systems and stuff. So we operate well above our size for this. Not that we're perfect. I think there's things we keep looking to expand on, but security for what we're doing is so important, as well as the process. Like if there's a breach, we actually have a plan for all that and communication plan and things like that. But and then the tools we choose. So this is why we work with Azure as well, and we like our ability to partner with that to actually get the right result. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Josh, obviously I know that you guys have an incident response plan, right? But does your size and your spread of your organization across the country, does that change or challenge you anymore as an IT department, thinking from an incident response standpoint?
Probably a little bit. So we're in quite a few states now across the country. So, we don't have specific IT staff in our stores. We're all corporate, or Scheels campus here in Fargo.
Okay.
So we do have to think about that. If something does happen in one of our stores, who's our contact in the store to help us get through it? And sometimes it's, how do we contact that store? So those are the things that we kind of work through as a team. From a policy perspective, we have some in place, not as detailed as probably some of these others, but we do like to play the game of what would happen if, and it's always that fun as we see we all see the news of things going on. We're like, boy, what would we do if that happened? That's always the fun thing to get the team thinking about it and get everybody thinking about security and everything they do all day instead of kind of the afterthought, which I think, up until about 5 years ago, that's what it was.
Yeah. Along those lines, right, we talk about the plan, and you talked in your example of a store in another state that you might not have an IT person involved. What other people are you having to involve in this plan other than those folks? Maybe outside of IT, right?
Outside of IT, one of the great things about Scheels is our leadership team is very engaged from top to bottom. So our board is very invested in it. They like to know where we're at. We try really hard to keep them in the loop as things go on, and if we need to communicate with them, we do. So we do feel like our whole organization is understanding that cybersecurity is very important.
Mm-hmm. Shane, anybody different outside of IT that we wouldn't normally think of that you're thinking you have to have in your incident response plan?
I don't think so. No, not really.
Leadership.
Yeah, like I said, we would have our first steps about the incident and getting a team involved to respond and react to that. And then obviously I would let leadership know quickly. But for us, that would be board of directors would also need to be notified. I'd consider them in the kind of leadership group, but I'd leave that up to the CEO. Mm-hmm. That would be extremely important. But like I think Jeremy and I think both Josh also said is we used to know before we do quarterly campaigns. We're doing a lot of training. We always say weakest link is internal. So we're always doing that. We're always trying to be proactive. Josh said, we see things on the news. We hear events all the time. We're always trying to react to those things that we hear and say, well, what can Bethany Retirement do so that we're not in the news? So we're constantly reacting to those type of things. You try to be proactive, but sometimes you just can't think up those scenarios.
Right.
We don't think like the bad guys necessarily.
No, as much as we try to, right? But you never know what's going to come at you.
Absolutely.
So one piece that I didn't hear that I think is important to bring out, though, and I'm assuming that this is in the plan as well, but to have your ducks in a row from a cybersecurity insurance standpoint to know who to contact right away, right? It's one thing to have it, and hopefully everybody does have that piece, but also to have that at the top of the list as far as people that I need to notify, because we've found that some organizations or some insurance providers may require you to work with certain companies also in the event of an incident. So just to call that part out, that even though they're not part of your internal staff, they absolutely have to be part of your incident response plan.
And on that note, that's a great point because ours is actually in England. And they prefer that we would contact them immediately, obviously. Actually, they'd probably be the second one we would contact after we would contact Network Center or Blue Team for the reason of their hours and hours different. So if this happened at 9 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night, it might be in the middle of the night for them. So we kind of look at that and use some common sense too and say we immediately respond as quick as we can right now, and then we contact them after the fact. Right. Very quickly, but
yep.
I prefer second.
Last question, just for the audience benefit. Yes or no, in the last 12 months, have you done tabletop exercises for your security incident?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are hard to do, right? Those are tough to do because they're time consuming, and quite frankly, they're a pain in the butt sometimes to do that. But it sure helps to make sure everybody's aware of what the plan is. Brad, question?
I do not have a question, but I am available. If anybody around the room has a question, I'll bring you the microphone.
Yeah, we would open this up to questions. We've got just a couple of minutes left with this. And while Brad is looking around for that, again, I want to thank these guys for being up here. We had to coerce them into doing so. No, they did... I'm not going to say volunteer, but they agreed to do that. So thank you, gentlemen, for kind of putting a wrap on Envision 2023. I think the bar is going to stay open. Brad?
Question over here. Joe
Yeah.
Franklin, everyone.
You guys are talking about the future and AI. That's great. If you look back, say over the last 5 years, is there a win that you can think about, whether it's like work from home or cloud or security? Has there been an architectural win that you've had some big benefits from? Anything stand out or worth taking note of?
Anything come to mind?
You said win? Well, I don't know about a win. Like I said, cybersecurity has gotten to be really, really big, obviously. I wouldn't really consider that a win.
How about on the AI?
On the AI side, I just don't know enough about AI and
Right. just
trying to get feet wet and cautiously too. Except for next year, we'll be much further ahead. I do see on the AI side that yes, there is benefits. I know there is. We've got reporting. We've got. I saw budget as an example. There's many things that we can do. I know we can, but we just got to find that. And we have 800 employees, so it's we got to be careful also with what we present.
Sure.
And we don't want to freak anybody out either. So.
Any win that comes to mind?
Yeah, so work from home, the ability, so it took us 3 days to send 800 people home. So that was a win. That was a technology win. The other one, so with cybersecurity and all of the penetration tests and how those have advanced over the years, so being able to work with a company over a number of years so they can test different layers, different attack vectors. So one thing we do yearly is we do an assume breach. We give a red team one of our employee laptops, re-enable their creds from an employee who has recently terminated, and they have access to our network and they go see what they can do. So having the technology in place to limit lateral movements, limit ports, limit what the access that laptop has been really beneficial.
Interesting. Loren, I'm assuming you probably have a few from your customers anyways.
Well, I think I've already mentioned a bunch of the
Right.
AI ones. I think from a technology perspective, mine is actually the cloud. So the cloud has enabled us to actually roll out a new product, test that product with beta users, secure that product, scale that product with a very, very small team, right? So I think I'm a huge fan of the cloud, and I know there's cost inhibiting us to that, but it's just such a great tool for getting a new idea to market securely, effectively, consistently, and being able to manage and scale that. So I think that's a huge win for technology.
Yeah, Josh, anything to add?
I would say our big win for us is just standardization. So we've worked really hard with all of our stores trying to be the same across the board. Programmable network has been really cool for us too. So the teams worked really hard on that. And then from a security standpoint, that does make a difference because if something's different, why is it different? And you know why it's different. So that's been our real big architectural change for us.
Yep. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you again for joining us up here. I am going to toss this back to Brady here in just 1 second, but before I do, I'm going to take my opportunity on the mic to have Luann, Sarah, and Andrea stand up, please. Thank you, ladies. Again, they do a ton of work. Brady had mentioned it before in putting this event on, so thank you very much. Brady, all you. I think Brady has some prizes to give away.
That's right. We're going to wrap
All
it up
right.
with doing some drawings, giving away some prizes. Thanks again to the panel members.